Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is a continuation of my tutorial series with Vue. Basically, I created a couple more recent videos where I was using Vue just as a script tag. This kind of continues off that and showing you sort of the next level to get acquainted with Vue, which is using the Vue CLI. I don't think I have the Vue CLI installed on this particular computer yet, so this is a good opportunity to do that. But basically, when you're using the Vue CLI, it allows you to have a more robust project structure with Vue, which has like Webpack and all these things configured for you, so that way you can bring in all sorts of node libraries and really kind of just take your code to the limit. Okay, but first you actually have to install the CLI, which is this command right here. Or if you're using Yarn, that would be the command. Okay, so first let me do that. So let me open up a terminal. Let's clear my terminal. Okay, and what I'm going to do is put the command, although I'm going to use sudo because generally it wants me to use sudo when I want to do global installs on npm. So I'm going to let that install. Okay, and once that is installed, we'll be able to use the Vue CLI. And we'll be able to create a new Vue project by just using this command right here. Okay, Vue create and then the name of the project. So we'll give that a moment to get started. And just to kind of explain to you what's going to be sort of the difference is that with this more robust setup, it's going to be more component based than necessarily using a script tag where you create like a Vue instance and you kind of have everything inside the Vue instance. Here the idea is you're going to have a lot of individual mini instances called components, and it'll just give you a lot more flexibility, and you'll be able to break up all your code into multiple files, which will be pretty fun. So letting that install. Good, that's all installed. So let's cd into somewhere where we can make some files. So let's go cd into development, cd into teaching. That's ls, isn't it? Teaching, cd with a capital T, cd teaching, cd front end, ls, we have a Vue folder in there. Yep, cd into the Vue folder. I do a lot of teaching. Clear. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a new project. So we're going to use this command right here, Vue create my project. So we're going to say Vue create, and we'll just call this actually, let me see, what folders do I have in here already? Project 1, boilerplate, tutorial, Vue components. Okay, so let's do Vue create project 2. Okay, what that's going to do is create this whole new project and set everything up for me. Okay, and then we'll take a look. So, well, it's going to ask us a few questions first. So do I want to use the default, which is Vue 2? We're going to do that. If you want to use the sort of the newest features of Vue, which is Vue 3, which does have some syntax differences, you're going to want to read the documentation. You can do that. But I'm just going to stick with Vue 2. Now, in this setup, you'll be able to use the most modern JavaScript syntax, ES6 imports and exports, whatnot. So it's going to come with Babel, which will allow us to transpile that back into finished code, and ESLint, which is just going to allow us to kind of double check our JavaScript grammar. So I'm going to just choose that one, default Vue 2. Okay, pick the package manager for installing dependencies. I want to use npm. Okay, so now it's setting up the project, and that's going to take a bit. And the thing is that when you have a build set up like this, deployment's going to be a little bit different because you're going to be building it in this nice advanced setup, and then once you're done, there's a build command that builds the final version. Okay, so we'll kind of go over that as well, so that way we have this kind of already deployed. Okay, but let's cd into that folder. So cd to project 2 now that it's been created, and then we can type in npm run serve, and that's actually going to set up our dev server. So we can actually see our Vue project, just a template one. So then it serves it from this folder here, or from port 8080. So let me go to that, localhost 8080, and there's your Vue app. Okay, we'll come back and explore that in a second. Okay, what I do want to do is just show you how you would deploy this project. So actually, let me open up this folder. So let me close some of these other VS Code windows real quick. I don't really need these open right now. And I'm going to open up this particular folder in VS Code. So I'm going to kill the server, and say code dot. So that way we open VS Code in this folder so you can see what's inside here. Okay, basically you have your package.json. So if you're familiar with Node, you know what that is. You don't really have to touch it. There's your Babel config that's set up for you, so you don't have to play with it. Okay, I'll just say allow for that. That's set up so that way when you build your project, it will build out the perfect final version for you. Then this is your public folder. That's where your index.html is, which you don't really need to touch. The way this works is that Vue, kind of like React, is going to inject itself right here. So this is essentially your parent, your top level Vue instance. And then everything kind of builds into there. So you never have to really touch anything else. Because what it's going to do is inject a component in there, and then you're going to build everything from those components. Okay? So really everything you need to do, the only reason you would go in here is if you need to put like a script tag for like Bootstrap or something. But you would go to your source, and then here's your main component. So this is essentially your main Vue instance. Okay? That's just your main Vue instance, and what it's doing is just saying, hey, at the app, looking at the app div, that div that had the key app, okay, you're gonna mount this component, or mount the component called app, mount it where the div with the app ID is, okay? So your app component is this right here, app.vue. So essentially this is your website. So when you're doing Vue in this style, it's the same deal. The only difference is now you have your JavaScript, your HTML, and your CSS all in one piece. Okay, so you see here, this is where you would do your HTML within the template tags. You would do all your JavaScript within the script tag, and you would do all your CSS within the style tag. Otherwise you're doing the same thing. Okay, and essentially the way this works is that all the information for this component goes in here, which is essentially it's the mini instance for this component, and this instance, which works just like your normal Vue component, your Vue instance, that's going to end up serving whatever you do here. So the data that's here is going to end up being allowed to be used up here. Methods can be used up here. Everything you normally would do with Vue, but it's all in this particular page. Okay, but now you can actually create other components. So if we go here into this components folder, see we have another hello world.vue component. So you see all that code you saw on the front page was really in here. But here, all we're seeing is hello world. Kind of like an HTML tag. That's what a component is like. It allows you to just plop a bunch of stuff as an HTML tag. Okay, and we're going to play with this more now that you've kind of gotten a little tour of the file here. So basically all you're doing is really creating these Vue files. That's it. Okay, this is your app component. That's the main one, and everything kind of builds from there. So before we actually play with it, first I'm going to show you how it gets deployed, so that way whenever you're done with your project, you know how to put it up on the web. Okay, so we're going to open up this folder in terminal. Let me just see if there's already if it gives you a Git repository right away. So Git status. Yep. Okay. So we do have a Git repository in here. So I'm gonna just do a git add, git commit -m, first commit. Okay. Cool. Now we're gonna go create a new GitHub repo. GitHub.com. So this way, this is already deployed, and we don't have to think about it later as we work on this. Okay, new. I'll just call this practice Vue site. Okay, create the repository. Then I'm going to add the remote for the repository. Add that to my repo, paste. And then I'll just do a git push origin master. Okay, so you just push it up to GitHub like you normally would. There's already a .git ignore that has all the kind of standard stuff in there. Okay, so that's pretty nice as two. And the cool thing about this is that now, since you're doing this within Webpack with Node, with this whole setup here, you're able to actually bring in stuff from the Node world. So you can actually use Node libraries, and there's plenty of them that are built to work with Vue. You would just install them like a normal Node package, you know, npm i this, and the only difference is that you would import them. Okay, instead of using require, you would use like import syntax. We'll get into that later. But once I have this pushed, so let's just double check. Did it get pushed? Yes. Now let's go to Netlify to deploy our project. So we'll log into Netlify. I'm gonna go new site from Git. Connect my GitHub project. I'm gonna look for my Vue project. There it is, practice Vue site. I click that. Okay, and see, it needs a build command and directory. Actually, I don't know where it'll build to, so let's find out. So the build command, so whenever you have a setup like this, whether it's React, Angular, Svelte, there's always a build command. Look in the package.json for that build command. So there it is. It's npm run build. Okay, so we know that. Build command is npm run build. Okay, good. Now we need to go see where that builds to, which is not going to tell me here. So the only way for me to know what that is to actually just do a build locally. So I'll just do an npm run build, and it should end up making a new folder. So let's see what it creates. So let's keep an eye out here. Building for production. And there it is. It builds a folder called dist. That's where it gets created into. So that means when that command is done, I wanted to serve my website from this dist folder. That's the folder where my compiled website is. So every time I push to GitHub, it's going to run this build command again to build the newest version of my website and then serve the distribution folder. So I hit deploy site. Let's see, that all worked the way we expect it to. Give it a moment. Take a moment the first time. In that case, your front end is deployed. That's literally all it takes to deploy this setup. Just waiting for that. Okay, let's go take a look at the live thing. So see, it's still doing the thing. Build command, pm build. So see, it's building right now. It's currently building, and now it's done. So now it should just about be. Site is live. Good. So let's go back to our main page. So there's deployed, and there it is. Welcome to your Vue.js app on the Netlify website. So that's all it takes to deploy it. Nothing crazy. Okay, it's the same idea if you use something like Create React App or Angular. All it is you're connecting the repo and giving it the instructions of what's the build command and what folder is the final build in. That's it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to leave it at that for this video. So this video was, again, the purpose was just to know how to start up a project, how to deploy a project. In the next videos, we'll start actually building stuff so you can see how you can use all your old Vue tricks still. Okay? So my name's Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.